The Kenner City Council meeting of August 21st, 2014 is now called to order. Councilman Reyna, would you please start with a prayer?
Before we say the prayer, on behalf of the LaCour family, I would like to ask everyone in the city of Kenner, everyone in this room, to keep them in your prayers for their father, grandfather, uncle, and friend, for Mr. Philip, I called him Mike LaCour, who was a long time volunteer at the Kenner Food Bank. It's fitting today, we had the groundbreaking today, and you know, the memories of Mr. Philip LaCour will be lasting, and obviously something we will carry on to the new food bank. So on behalf of the LaCour family, please keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anyone else they would like to mention? Hearing no one else, Councilman Reyna, would you please lead us in the prayer?
Let us bow our heads and remember that we are in the presence of the Lord. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for all the many blessings that you have so graciously bestowed on us. We ask, Lord, for your protection for our military, those who are currently serving our country, and those who have served our nation in the past. We thank you, Lord, for giving them the will to serve their country. May we always be mindful that freedom is not free. We ask, Lord, that you comfort and heal all of our loved ones who are ill and convalescing. We pray, Lord, for all those in our community who have recently passed away, especially our special intention. Please grant them the peace you promised and comfort their loved ones in their time of sorrow. Lord, we ask that you bless, assist, and enlighten our elected officials, that they may prove worthy of the confidence placed in them by their fellow citizens. Lord, Scripture instructs us in Ephesians 5:20, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. In these thanksgivings we pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Impastato, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum this evening. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Madam Chairman, we've received a request this evening to take item 13B at the beginning of the meeting. If I could have a vote of the council to change the order of business, please.
I move to change the order of business.
Yes. Motion by Councilmember DeFrances, second by Councilmember Conley to change order of business. If y'all could please vote.
Do you have a screen? I don't have a screen. Madam Clerk, I don't have a screen. It's dead. We're having some technical difficulties, so if you could please bear with us for a moment.
Two more votes, please. One more?
I did. Mine's blinking.
Three more. Two more. Everybody got it?
Mine keeps blinking.
Mine's blinking.
Yours is blinking? Yeah. Mine's blinking. I know, she did. She turned all of them off. All right. Thank you to our council clerk. Now everything is fine and we will move forward.
Yes, ma'am. Motion passes 7-0.
Going to read 13B?
Give me 1 second. Item 13B, a resolution requesting that the Jefferson Parish School Board grant the expansion request of Kenner Discovery Health Sciences Academy Charter School.
Move.
Motion by
Seconded Conley.
Councilmember DeFranco, second by Councilmember Conley.
Thank you. We have some people in the, Mr. Mayor, would you like to make a comment first before we invite our guests to come to, for their comments?
Sure, I would like to invite the representatives of the school to come up, because in case y'all have any questions for them. But as everybody knows, the Kenner Discovery Health and Sciences Academy was started out of my Economic Development Committee. A number of the members of the community, along with Councilman DeFrances, who was on the committee, and Councilman Reno, said, this is something, education came back as a major role in Kenner's future. And of course, we're not the Jefferson Parish School System, not the school board by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm not the superintendent, wouldn't want to be. But, what we're trying to do is improve education as best we can as a government in the city. We do have a number of public schools that have rising grades in the schools. They're all achieving above expectations from what they were several years ago, so I'm very happy to hear that. But what we wanted to do is try to do it like a form of economic development within our own community with this school. As everybody knows, with the growth of the medical industry in the city of New Orleans, with all the new hospitals opening up and the changing times that we're having, sciences and health and discovery is going to be a major player in those roles. And within a year, we were able to open the doors of this school from the first time it was discussed at an economic development meeting. And I'm very thankful, and of course, Councilman Imstadt also sat on that board at the time as just a regular citizen, and he too believed that this was very important and vital to our community to improve education. The school is now looking to expand, and after talking to Councilwoman DeFrances, she wanted to do what we could to, tell the school board whatever needs to be done. We need expansion of this school so we can get a high school and more grades, and that they'll be LEAP eligible and those types of things, because they're a growing school, very diverse school. I've gotten a number of calls from members of the Hispanic community, very happy about the school, wanting the school to expand, and of course the school board has a lot to say with the expansion of this school. It's I believe. And Diane and Patty, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a chartered school, but it has a lot of school board input on that. And Dr. Patty Glazer, along with the president of the board, Ms. Diane Hollis, come on up, Diane, and Linda Nugent-Smith, y'all please come up. They have worked tirelessly to make sure this school is a success. And having a mother who was an educator, I've gotten to know a lot of the teachers over there, and when I tell you, Dr. Glazer has gotten the cream of the crop to teach at this school and to be mentors at this school and counselors and those types of positions at the school. So the students that go to this school are very, very fortunate and are getting an outstanding education. So what better to do than expand a great thing and let this seed grow into a flourishing garden, if to put it into that those types of aspects, being that we're a green city. And I think it's a feather in our cap that we welcome this school. The school board has worked with us to make it happen. We just need to go a couple steps further, and with this resolution tonight, that's going to encourage them to move forward, work with Dr. Glazer and the president of the school board, Diane Hollis, and the rest of the board members that have worked so hard to get this school funded, filled, and kids educated. Dr. Glazer?
If you could all please introduce
Thank you,
yourselves
Marianne.
and where you live, please.
I'm Patty Glazer. I live in Metairie, lived in Metairie for many years, and am the head of school CEO at Kenner Discovery Health Sciences.
I'm Linda Nugent-Smith, and I live at 645 Carmenier in Kenner, and I'm vice chairman of the board.
I'm Diane Hollis, and I live at 521 Barone Street in New Orleans. I know, I'm sorry. I'm coming back, though.
Dr.
Coming
Glazer,
back.
Dr. Glazer, would you like to address the council and all the people that are watching this meeting and the people in the audience?
Sure. I'd like to thank Mary Yenny for the kind words. It's been a wonderful journey opening the school from just bringing it from nothing into what it is now. We are chartered for pre-K through 8th grade for 5 years. We're in our 2nd year of operation, We have 575 students attending the school, with 525 students on the wait list. We've been over-applied for both years. Last year was outstanding, the number of applicants we had. We had close to 800 applicants for 150 positions. So literally, our phone rings off the hook with people asking us, when can you expand? How can you expand? So we would like to expand our footprint in pre-K through 12th grade with more sections per grade level, as well as bringing the students up through 12th grade. I think it's been a long time since Kenner and Jefferson Parish has had a new middle and high school. We're a high-performing school. We fully expect to be assigned level B, a strong B, in terms of a grade this fall. Our students did exceptionally well. 86% of them scored equal to or above basic on the iLeap, and we expect even a greater performance this school year academically. We've partnered with people like Yoga Power Play, Playworks, with the Kenner Development Department, with the director of the Kenner Development Department, in order to increase diversity. We've partnered just recently with NOVA, and we'll be offering ballet for at-risk kids on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. The community has been wonderful, and I want to thank Kenner, too, for how wonderful they've been. From council people to the firemen, the policemen, everyone helping us get our carpool line straight and what route they should take to school. Some of the simple things that seem, simple can sometimes be the most complicated. But there is a certain level of urgency to this because we have 7th graders at the school, and their parents are now getting antsy about where they will be going to high school. And we would like to keep our 7th graders with us into the high school, so the high school for 9th grade would open in 2016. So we really appreciate this resolution. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer them.
Would anyone else like to say anything before we have any other comments from the council or any questions? I'm going to be very brief. I'm simply going to say, anyone who knows me knows my devotion to education. When I first started teaching, I was head of the science department at a high school. And so being the department head for science at that school, I know how much work it takes, and I have an appreciation. And having a master's in biochemistry, science is in my heart. I know how important it is, and I know what a phenomenal job you all have been doing. And one last comment, I have spoken to so many parents whose children attend the Discovery School, and every single parent with whom I have spoken, everyone is delighted with the progress their child is making and with the school as a whole. So I'm going to allow any other councilman who would like to make a comment to please press their little button, and we will make sure that you have an opportunity to speak. Councilman Impastato, you have the floor. Do you have it yet? No. I pressed.
You have it.
Dr. Glazer, we talked about this during the last 6 months, this issue, and I think one of the things that I learned from you that I think everyone needs to understand, the council and anyone in the public, is the expansion, as I understand it, is not only necessary to bring more kids in, but in order to see the physical plant expansion that people want to see, this is essential, right?
It is essential.
And
Exactly.
for us, particularly in the District 5 area, the District 5 community is dying to see construction at the site, at the vacant site out there, the undeveloped land. And I think everyone needs to understand, in order for that to ultimately happen, the school board needs to open up and allow this additional vertical and horizontal expansion. And I think that's important for everyone to understand.
We very much have it in our plans to build a new facility. And, part of the challenge is if you're building a new facility, a pre-K through 12th grade looks very different than a pre-K through 8th grade. So you have to know what you're projecting in terms of student numbers and even student grades, and what kinds of science labs you need, so that when someone like Councilman DeFrances heads your science department, you know what kind of labs you need, which are different from high school than they are from middle school, which are different than lower school. So that is an important point, is to get the expansion, not only to serve the families and not only because it's high demand, but so that we can move forward with plans of building a new campus.
Councilman Impastato? Complete? Good. Councilman Segura, you have the floor, please.
Thank you. Ladies, I'm certainly very pleased to support our request for that expansion. Of course, it is with some trepidation that I know that that would mean you might leave my district.
Well, actually, Mike, let me stop you there, because Dr. Glazer has expressed interest in doing something at that site, even if it, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Patty, but
Go right
but
ahead.
that was one of the things we discussed early on. You know, the site that we're looking to the school board to acquire in, on Loyola and Vintage that they have, that the city would like to, one day get to be turned over to the charter school. Dr. Glazer is very impressed with the facility at the old Majoria School and says, we can do things at this school, possibly even the lower grades, and have the high school and the other facilities. So it can be a win-win for both North and South Kenner. And so I didn't want that to go on any further. If that's something I haven't told you, I failed to tell you.
Absolutely. I mean, I met with their board, right after taking office and expressed to them that desire to see them expand, and was hoping that they could maybe go across the street to the other facility, but didn't seem like that was going to be possible. So, and then the other properties. So, yeah, I was a little concerned that your wonderful growth, your good job would have brought you out of the district. But if that works out, that'll be great to have in both places. So, yes, I mean, y'all been a big plus to the neighborhood, to the school system, and I just know from everybody that's on a waiting list, they'd love to be able to get a better shot to get in there. So by all means, we wish you the best.
We do love the campus, by the way. Lots of green space, blacktop space. It's kind of everything you can ask for. And pre-K through second grade really needs to be housed on the first floor. And I call our campus a ranch-style campus because it's all one floor spread out in 4 buildings. And so that really works for pre-K through second. I'm not really willing to give that up.
Good. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Councilman Klein, could you push your button again, please? Okay, good. Councilman Klein, you have the floor.
Mike? Is it on now? It is?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Glazer, I think the charter school concept's a great idea, and I'm in favor of any expansion that will keep our young kids in Kenner and to keep Kenner moving forward. So I think it's a great idea. Expand it all you want to, and I'll be in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming tonight. And we, as you've heard, the council is very, as well as the administration, the council and the administration both are very supportive of you, and we're behind you, and we want to make sure that you move forward because you've done a phenomenal job. So thank you for being here tonight and for all you do for our children.
And to steal what Councilman Segura did for the Jefferson Convention and Visitor Bureau, ladies, thank you. Thank the gentleman on the council.
All council members, please vote. Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Madam Chairman, this evening we've also received a request to change the order of business to take item 18A at the beginning of the meeting.
Moved by Councilwoman DeFrancis, second by Councilman Conley.
All council members, please vote. Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 18A, at the request of Councilwoman Maria DeFrances, a discussion from Mr. Greg Finn of Entergy regarding Entergy's preparation for hurricane season and Entergy's continued maintenance and upgrading of its infrastructure.
Mr. Greg Finn, would you please come to the front of the council chamber and introduce yourself to everyone here, please?
You too? Okay.
My name is Greg Finn. I work for Entergy. I live at 301 Buckthorn Circle in Covington, Louisiana. Really want to take a few minutes of your time tonight to talk about hurricane preparedness, as well as just some general Entergy topics. Maria and I had spoken about just some general discussions about, Entergy, their maintenance practices, and kind of how we respond to storms, and just kind of a hodgepodge of topics to deal with Entergy. But the first thing is about hurricane prep. I always like to refer to what we do for storm restoration is it's not as sexy as sports, but it takes, it's preparation. You don't just show up on game day and execute your game plan. It takes practice, prepare in the off-season, and when it comes time to execute, you're able to do that effectively. So, we take pride in our preparation. We work a lot in the off-season, which is, year-round for us, really. We're exposed to some of the worst weather in the country, in this part of the country. So we have to deal with that 365 days a year. Actually, I think that's a slide that's a little further in. Can you get to the first slide? It's back even further. You're kind of in the middle right now. Oh, there you go. Move it again. Yeah, that's fine. So again, it's just about preparation. It's not just showing up on when the storm hits the Gulf. We're preparing for that way out ahead of time, and we practice that. We have drills, and I know we attend Doug's drill here with Kenner, and we partner with all our first responders, and we practice in the off season. Next slide, please. This is just a kind of a rule of thumb based on storms we've responded to in the past, whether it be here or storms we've helped with in the past. We go help other utilities. This is just a simple rule of thumb for restoration, trying to set customers' expectations about what to expect, how they can prepare their family, and plan their lives around those events. Every storm's unique, and but our models and what our history is telling us, this is kind of, when we have a Category 1 storm, customers need to plan to be without power for 7 days. Now, we hope to beat that, obviously, but that's reality right there. And our residents and our customers need to prepare their families and have their personal plan around these kind of numbers like that. So, and we do a good job of setting those expectations before the storm hits. So you'll hear that quite a bit if a storm does get in the Gulf and we have to start preparing. Is your question? Okay. Next slide, please. This is it's kind of difficult to see, but this just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that go on once a storm hits. I got my pointer here. If I can use it up here. You can see this top thing is really, it won't show up on the TV. How about that? The top bullet is just about scouting. We have to do a detailed assessment of damage after the storm hits, and that allows us to really make good plans to utilize our resources once those linemen and stuff start rolling in to restore power. So the first thing is really to assess our damage so we know what kind of damage we got, so we can communicate with our customers about adjusting those numbers, whether it be 7 days or 10 days. We want to communicate with those customers, but we have to do an assessment before that ever happens. You can't just guess how long a customer is going to be out or an area is going to be out without really assessing it. So, and there's several pieces that go along with that. The first you see is the generating plants where the electricity is generated, such as Waterford 3, Little Gypsy up by the just other side of the spillway, or 9 Mile, which is in the West Bank. Those plants have to be up and running to get the power out. The transmission lines that you see take the electricity from the generator to into the substations. The substations are the areas like we got one out in University City, out in North Kenner, at the end of Tulane. There's one right off 3rd Street over here in South Kenner. So electricity goes there. All those lines have to be intact, energized. The substations have to be up and running. And different groups are working on those at different times. I mean, so, the first one doesn't have to happen for the second one to happen. Those things are kind of working in harmony together. Those last 2 or 3 bullets there are really about the distribution piece, we call it, which is the lines that run in the neighborhoods. And that's, again, you have to be assessing those, and we have to be kind of making plans on how we're going to go about those and work it smartly. So, and, our commitment is really to have everything assessed in 3 days. So that will allow us to really effectively communicate good information to customers so they can plan. And again, until you fully assess it, our facilities, it's tough to do that. Next slide, please. You know, when a storm hits, customers usually, or residents usually see the linemen and the tree trimmers. There are a lot of folks behind the scenes that make things happen, and majority of them you probably don't see because they're working a staging area. You know, they're running meals. It is a major undertaking to restore power after a major event. So there's a lot of folks that, you know, that work behind the scenes. We do have 2 staging facilities that support the city of Kenner. We have the Pontchartrain Center, which you guys graciously let us use, and we have actually obtained this year part of Zephyr Field. So it allows us a little more central location in East Jefferson Parish. So those are 2 staging areas that we have to bring trucks into and material and stage there. So next slide, please. You know, it's also important for the customers to have a plan as well. It's not just about what we plan for or what you guys plan for as a city. Our customers and our residents need to have a personal plan and understand, you know, how to react to a storm and make sure they're prepared, whether it be medicine, a generator, you know, cleaning their gutters out, whatever that may be. You know, that's up to that individual, but they need to really be thinking about that as well way before the storm. Next slide, please. You know, one of the things we learned after Isaac is, you know, communication wasn't the best. You know, we understand that. Our restoration we felt was pretty good. Our communication was probably not as good as it could be, and we heard that. You know, we're not, you know, we listened to that feedback, and so, you know, we're trying to look for better ways or more creative ways to communicate with our customers. One of the ways is we have an app now that you can, you know, if you're familiar with our outage map, you actually can get it on your phone now, you know, as an app, and it's you can do a lot of different things with us, but it's also that outage map that you can see on your phone and stay up to date on outages. Not just during a storm. That's just every day, like today, like the thunderstorms roll through. That works for that as well. And also we have outage texting, which on a day like today is good. It's been very well received, where if you have an outage, we're actually texting you proactively that your power's out in case you're not home, and you can plan your life around that. So another way to stay informed, that's all. Next slide, please. This is another I know a lot of y'all were at the community meetings we had last summer, the mayor's community meetings we held. This is one of the websites that we have on our website. It's called our Storm Center page. And it's a great resource for customers and your residents to really, before the storm, learn about safety, have a lot of safety information, how to prepare for the storm, how our restoration process works. It gives them a lot of so it's a resource for customers to use to really just prepare themselves and understand more about our restoration process. I would encourage everybody to, you know, to look at that. I actually have some one-page flyers I'll leave here today for anybody that wants it, or if you guys want to look at it, you're welcome to it. But it's really just it's a great website to look at, again, before an event happens. Next slide, please. This is really our View Outage website that's actually out there on our Entergy.com site, what we call our View Outage site. And it's active 24/7, 365. During a storm mode, it goes into a different look. When a major storm hits, it goes into a different view, where we actually call it an area view, and it gives you what we call an alert box. And these triangles and the green and red lines will still show up. And you can turn those on and off if you choose, but we're going to attempt to give information more in a text format based on areas and neighborhoods and things like that. So we're going to try to communicate with customers online that, you know, these are the areas that we're working in. This is where we're going tomorrow. Here's where we're at today. You know, damage reports and things like that based on at the neighborhood level. So we're going to try to communicate down to that granularity with our customers. So you will see in like a day like today, you can't get that view. But when we kick into storm mode, when a storm hits and we're fighting that restoration, this site will kick into that view. So just something different. That's something new since Isaac. So next slide, please. Much like the city, we've had to kind of adapt to the social media as well. You can keep up with information on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And if you don't know how to do that, you might want to ask your kids or your grandkids, and they can help you out with that. So, but again, we have, it's a different dynamic for us in the social media, so we're having to adapt to that as well. So, next slide, please. For some of the council folks that have been here before, as you know, when a storm hits, I'm typically the one keeping you guys up to speed, what's going on. Sometimes we meet, if it's bad enough, we'll meet daily, and I'll give briefings about, damage and restoration progress and things like that. We typically embed somebody at the EOC at Kenner. We've done that for the last few storms. We also have a person at Jefferson Parish EOC, and I believe y'all have one there as well that, they can communicate as well with our folks there at JP. But we will have someone, we've committed to have someone here at the Kenner EOC as well, like always. So that's a great resource for us to exchange information. And of course, we're always looking to improve. So, post-storm, we'll probably circle back and talk about what we did good, what we did bad, and what can we improve on. So that's something we typically try to do. Next slide, please. And this is, again, just some of those topics that we'll probably talk about when we meet on a daily basis post-storm. So, we'll talk about, some critical facilities that you're concerned about. Give me an area you're really concerned about, nursing home, whatever. It could be anything that you have a concern about as your area is being restored. Next slide, please. This is just a slide to talk about, a lot of times after the storm, our customers, and particularly we worry about the kids, after the storm, been cooped up in the house for a long time, people looking to get out, and just all we ask is that you be careful, especially with the kids, to let them out after the storm. There's a lot of danger out there. It's not just our lines that are on the ground sometimes, could be energized. There's a lot of danger lurking out there after the storm. So just please be careful after the storm. And if you have any concern or your residents have any concern about a down power line, please call us and report it. Next slide, please. And again, this just talks about our Entergy Storm Center page on our website. And that's really it for that hurricane prep. Does anybody have any questions around hurricane prep?
Councilman Segura, would you like the floor at this point, or do you want to wait till?
Well, I'll wait because
Okay.
prep is prep, so I'm not worried about prep. I'm worried about after.
Mr. Finn, are you going to mention maintenance and?
Yes, yes,
okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Then we'll let you continue first.
Okay. Can we get the next deck, please? Next slide, please. Maria and I talked, and she had mentioned she had read something about, utilities in general across the country have an aging infrastructure, and that's true. That's just the nature of our business. A lot of utilities have been around, and the infrastructure's been around a long time, so we have to take care of it. It's really no different than your sewer system. I know you guys are really working to improve that. It's kind of the same thing. It's been around a long time, and you have to take care of it. So and put some money into it. This is actually just a map for some of the council members that are new. This is how Kenner is served by the different substations. So if you look, the red area is served out of our University City substation, which is at the end of Tulane. You can see the little box. If you look at it, that's where the substation is. And everything in red is served out of that substation. So if you ever hear us talking about the University City substation, that's the area that all the electricity comes out of that substation right there. At the bottom, it's served out of Kenner Sub, which is there off 3rd and Alliance. And it serves the bottom area. I can't tell what, I think it's like purple, but it's down at the bottom left. It serves that area down there in the southwest part of Kenner. The top right is served out of our Pontchartrain substation, which is the corner of Power and West Esplanade. And that's that light green area to the top. And then a small portion of Kenner down in the southeast corner of Kenner is served out of our, what we call our Snake Farm substation, which is on Airline near David Drive, now the old Saints facility. A very small piece comes into that southeast part of Kenner. So really, you're served by 4 different substations in the city of Kenner. So that's just kind of a layout of where your electricity comes from, in case you need to know that. Next slide, please. This is actually just a slide, and I know it's difficult to see on the TV, but this is a typical distribution circuit. We have 99 distribution circuits, what we call feeders. It's not much different than a breaker in your house. It's a breaker in the station, in the substation that we talked about. It comes out and it feeds approximately 1,000 customers on a typical circuit does. And this is one in North Kenner that comes out of U-City. And you can see it serves the Wood Lake area, and it goes on down into, south of West Esplanade. So you can see that sometimes they go a long ways, and I really wanted to show you this just to kind of explain that, we hear a lot of times that, no one's in front of my house, no one's working on my problem. And that's their concern, their problem, and that's what we understand that. But I showed this to just explain that, just say this customer is living down at the very south end of this circuit. And I can't see the street name, but it's just down here at the very most southernmost part of the picture. But the problem, the root cause of the outage may be something up way farther north by the substation. We could have 3 poles down and a big tree fell across it or something like that. We could have 10 trucks there working on it, but the customer down here at the south, they don't see anybody, so they get concerned. And rightfully so. They don't see anybody in front of their house, and that's what's near and dear to them. So just because you don't see somebody in front of your house or your constituents don't see somebody in front of their house doesn't necessarily mean that their problem's not being worked on. So just really wanted to kind of explain how big our circuits are and how they're laid out. So next slide, please. This, again, kind of follows up to Isaac. After Isaac, we realized the communication problem, and we really put some things into place to try to improve those with the residents as well as with elected officials. So these are just some of the things that our mobile app, again, we've got some features to our View Outage site, that alert message I spoke about earlier. And we've actually worked with Greg Riggum on a new tool that will help us report to you a little better on lines along lines that mean something to you. We know, council districts and things like that really never meant much to our restoration process, but it's important to you. So now we have the ability to overlay some of those districts and different boundaries that we create and report outages based on those boundaries. So in other words, I'll be able to tell you, District 5 has this many customers out. And before, we just never could do that. We didn't have the technology to do it. So Greg Riggum has really allowed us to kind of put some of that technology in place. So when we're reporting to you, we can kind of give you some information at that granular level. So that'll be a big plus. Next slide. Here's just some things, again, after Isaac, we've kind of put into place, to try to get boots on the ground quicker, and particularly the scouts. We're really leaning toward including scouts on what we call our core team, people that actually stay behind in the event of even a major storm, so we can get those folks on the ground quicker and really start our assessment quicker, so we have good information when the crews really start rolling in from out of town. And so next slide, please. Here's kind of what Councilman DeFrancis was referring to. This is some of the reliability improvements. And these next slide or two came from a presentation we did with Jefferson Parish. So some of this stuff is parish-wide information, but these are just some information or some bullets that explain some of the improvements we've made since Isaac. And this is not necessarily just because of Isaac. This is just ongoing since that time. So, we replaced, I broke it into 3 categories. The distribution piece, which is, again, the lines that run in the neighborhoods. We replaced exit cables out of our substations. Well, we performed these targeted inspections that we'll talk about in a little bit. You know, we replaced underground cable. We've added sectionalizers. That circuit I showed you earlier, we've added, actually, you know, we have devices that we kind of break those long circuits up with, where we put a device in the middle of it. So if a fault occurs at the very end of it, it doesn't take the whole circuit out. It will just take half of it out. So, and our goal is to keep as many customers in as possible. So that's kind of, we're utilizing those devices to kind of break those big circuits into smaller pieces. We've added, you know, fault indicators. We've used those for quite a while. Actually, what we do is on a big circuit like that as well, we'll put a fault indicator in the middle of it, and say the whole circuit goes out. We're trying to find the root cause of the problem. So the first thing we do is we go to that fault indicator, and it tells us whether it's upstream or downstream the problem. So that helps our servicemen actually find the cause of the problem quicker. So utilize a lot of that technology, and of course a lot of lighting mitigation. On the transmission side, again, those big lines, you know, you can see some of the projects we've done in the last 2 years. And of course, at the substation level, that's those substations we talked about before. Next slide, please. Again, this gets kind of more to the maintenance and you know, people talk about system hardening, and you hear that term a lot. And you know, in 2007, we went through an evaluation process where we actually started using different engineering on our transmission lines, where we actually use concrete instead of wood when it's close enough to the coastline. You know, we engineer them for higher wind standards. We're utilizing steel. You won't see any more wooden transmission lines like we used to have. And those, and I'm talking about the high voltage line, not the neighborhood lines, but we either use steel or concrete. So it's just and it's actually the look of it's better because it's a smaller, you know, we use the poles are just one pole, they go up, as opposed to the big trestle looking things like that are on Power Boulevard. You know, those would just, now in today's technology, you would just have one pole and it'd be a lot cleaner. We've also started using what we call class-free poles. It's really, the class is kind of the thickness of the pole. So we started using a fatter pole, so to speak, as opposed to a smaller pole on our typical distribution line. So that has helped, or that will help, you know, in the long run. You can, next slide, please. This is just a slide we like to keep, you know, we like to show everybody, and I'm sure you've seen this 100 times. You know, this is, you know, again, our restoration has gotten better and better and better and better. And this is the timeline of that restoration, you know, even after Isaac, although Isaac was a little unique because it hung around for so long before we could start. But you know, again, we're always looking to improve, and we feel we do that. We've actually, you probably heard me say this before, we've been recognized by the Edison Electrical Institute 16 years in a row for our storm restoration, whether it be here or us helping other utilities. We're the only utility in the country to be recognized 16 years in a row, every year since it's been in place. So, next slide, please. This is just a picture of, you know, we have to measure our reliability. So we try to track it for what we call SAIDI and SAIFI. SAIDI is the average duration of an outage, and the next one is the frequency, but this is the duration. And what this tells you is that this is basically the how long an outage lasts if you have one. So, and you can see it just it's a cumulative total, so it kind of adds up over the year. So, but you can look at, if you look at 2012, you know, that number at the end of the year was about, if you had an outage, on average, it lasted about a little over 50 minutes. And then in 13, it was about 65 minutes. And, you know, right now we're tracking just a little bit under 2013 right now. So we've actually had some pretty severe weather this summer, so some of that's driving that. But again, that's how we kind of gauge our reliabilities. This is the duration metric. And then the next slide, please. This is actually just the frequency of how we, you know, in other words, what this tells you is that, and folks laugh when I say this, this tells you that a customer is likely to have 0.7 outages in a year. Well, we know that's not, you're not going to have 0.7 outages, but when you look at how it's calculated, that's the number we use to measure it. So not everybody has an outage. some people have multiple outages, so, and we'll go over some of those tactics we use to try to target those pockets that have more than 1 or 2 outages. Next slide. This is some of the stuff, again, that we talk about from a maintenance standpoint. We use those safety scores to kind of rank how our circuits are performing. And we take the ones that kind of fall out as poor performers, and we give those extra attention the following, calendar maintenance year. So those things kind of, they get inspected tip to tail. We design any kind of jobs. We concede, obviously, improve those things, but those numbers kind of lead us to those circuits that we need to target based on their performance. We also have kind of a shorter term reactive measure, which we call tactics. And we have, every device we have out there has a threshold on it. In other words, if a lateral switch we have, if it is out more than twice in a month, that's a flag for us. There's a problem. So our reliability guys go out there and try to find out what's going on, whether it be vegetation issues or whatever. So we use those tactic numbers, and I don't know all exact numbers for each device, but basically, those numbers tell us, where we need to be focused on, who's having problems, and we try to correct those. Again, we use infrared technology on our backbone circuits. We use that technology to try to find hot spots before they become a problem to fix. And of course, the vegetation, we're tree trimming, and we try to trim every circuit on a 3-year average basis. So, next slide, please. Here's the tree trimming. There's a little more detail around tree trimming. Trees, Kenner's kind of an old area, and the trees have gotten mature, and so, of course, they grow up to our power lines. Everybody likes their trees, but they don't really like our power lines, and so that becomes an issue sometimes. But you can just see, on average in Jefferson Parish, total, we trim about 450 lawn miles a year. That's a lot of trees we're trimming. You can see in 2014, we've actually, we have 473 miles scheduled to be trimmed, and to date, we're about 276 miles in Jefferson Parish. That's not Kenner specific, but that's Jefferson Parish. It's also been our experience that a lot of times the problem doesn't come from the trees right around, or the limbs right around the line. It's typically trees falling into our line, or from outside the right of way, or things like that, especially in a major storm. So, another issue I'll bring up too is the palm trees. Palm trees have become real popular, and you can't very well trim a palm tree. It's very difficult. Folks plant them under our power lines. They grow up into the power line. We can't really trim them. The only way to trim them, if you trim them correctly to clear the line by our standards, you wouldn't have a tree. It'd be a totem pole, basically, and it's going to die. So we try to work with customers. We'll actually take that tree out and remove it. We'll remove the total tree for the customer if you allow us. A lot of times they won't allow us, and we trim it the best we can, but the problem is they grow so quickly too. So those are a big issue. Next slide, please. People talk about pole inspections.
Yeah.
This is some information on our pole inspection process. We use Osmos. It's a vendor that most utilities use to inspect their poles. When the customer goes, or when the vendor goes out, they're looking for a visual inspection, looking for obvious problems with the pole. They sound the pole, they take a hammer and beat on it. They take a boring sample of the tip of the pole, and they'll tag it. And that tag will tell us, what year it was inspected. It'll have some designation on it as to what they found, things like that. So, we do about 7,500 poles a year on our inspections, and we've done 2,200 this year to date. So, the average rejection rate, when I say rejection rate, that's poles that come back on what they find. They say that, look, this pole needs to be replaced, and we'll draw a job up to replace that pole, and it'll go into the work backlog. So only about 2 in 100 that we find, need to be replaced based on those inspections. They're also, if they find a pole what they call a danger pole, which they think it's an immediate danger, we obviously replace those right away. We don't put those in the backlog. We'll take care of those right away. Just to give you an idea, The Jefferson Parish, the whole parish has almost 100,000 utility poles in Jefferson Parish. So it's a lot of poles. About 70% of them are ours, about 30% are AT&T's. So we don't own all the poles, but we do own the majority of them. And just to give you an idea, during Isaac, we had about 1,000 poles down in the parish. And that's about a 1% rate of poles down in the parish. So, and for a lot of reasons, you know, trees just blew over, you know, broke off, whatever. So, but there were about 1,000 poles down in the parish. The last slide too, I just wanted to throw this in here. One more, no. A lot of times you'll hear, why don't we put everything underground? Well, if, you know, that issue's been studied over and over, and it does have its place, but the cost benefit's not always there. It looks good, but underground is about 10 times more expensive than overhead utilities. And a lot of times, when you're trying to convert from overhead to underground, there are a lot of issues as well. You're competing with other utilities. There's a space constraint. A lot of times you're in, you know, if you're going from overhead to underground, there's not a lot of places to put the facilities. So it's not always easy as it sounds. And it does, you know, the studies tell us that you have about 50% less outages with underground utilities, but they take a lot longer to restore that power because obviously you can't see the problem as easily as you can with overhead utilities. So you have fewer outages, but they last longer. So when you look at 10 times the cost, sometimes it's just not worth it. So, you know, that's really all I have. And if I'll open up the questions, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Councilman Segura, you have the floor. You had a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I do have actually 3 questions. Greg, thank you for your presentation. It certainly was informative to help us out in explaining it to our constituents, certainly. But my first question, and you did touch on some of it relative to the infrastructure replacement, upgrading, and you gave some statistics. But do you all have some form of formula that says you replace 20% every year, 30% every year, anything of that line?
No, sir.
It's just as you see you
pole-
need to do it?
Correct. A pole, I asked this question the other day to some of our utility. A pole has a projected life of 40 years. And some of them, you know, the older poles, when they really treated them with some stuff they don't let them treat them with now, those things will last a lot longer. I mean, and you'll have some poles that just quite frankly, maybe 20 years old and deteriorate faster than a pole that's 50 years old. It's just, it's not a cookie cutter approach where after, you know, you say after 30 years you're going to replace them. It's just because you'd be replacing a lot of poles that really are good. So there's not, you know, to answer your question, there's not a hard and fast date where we're going to change a pole out. Okay. We try to inspect them and make a decision based on that inspection.
Then is there any form of research going on to come up with a different type of pole than a tree?
Well, people have talked about, you know, fiberglass and you know, concrete and things like that. And, you know, I think we have found that just the wooden poles are the best for the distribution application at this point in time. Like I said, we have changed to a fatter pole, which we think will enhance the life of that pole. And when I say, you know, fatter, it's not exponentially fatter. It's just, you know, it may be like from here to there, you know, so, but that makes a big difference. I mean, so, okay. But that has been looked at. That's been kicked around for a long time, different types of poles, and we just always kind of come back to wood.
Okay. A second question, and I know you gave one slide that talked about the restoration number of days on an average based upon the category of the storm. Isn't there some other consideration that's in your restoration plan for first responders to have their facilities try to be brought up faster?
Actually, I probably skipped over. I missed that. But yes, we do have a prioritization. We try to, you know, when we first start restoring power, you know, we're trying to get power to the hospitals, obviously, the pumping stations, even though they have generator here. You know, all the parish pump stations have generator, but you know, we don't want them to rely on that. We're trying to get those back in. We're trying to get your critical infrastructure back in. We're trying to get the EOC, make sure it's got power so you can effectively help your citizens. The police headquarters, even though they have a generator as well. You know, those things like that, the sewer plant, we're trying to get those things, you know, those are the ones we try to tackle first. And then we start trying to get, you know, as many customers on as quickly as possible. So in other words, if we can do 2 hours work and get 200 customers on, as opposed to 10 hours work and get 20 customers on, we're gonna tackle that one. We can work 2 hours and get 200 customers on first. If we just had one resource to work on those, I mean, that's how we try to prioritize. We're trying to get as many customers on as quickly as possible.
Okay. Well, and just from a personal perspective, from my experience in the past, and the Kenner Police Department's building seems to be the last building put back on. And for our police officers who have to sleep in that building and get the rest they need before going out for their next 12-hour tour of duty, it would be a whole lot nicer if their electricity was put back on sooner, because as we learned with Isaac, our generators sometimes don't last, and it killed on us, and we were scrambling with no place to put our men that night. So I know Chief Glazer would certainly appreciate that if, fortunately, we can go the rest of the season without a storm, but in some event there will be another storm, that his building can be brought back up so he doesn't have to rely on that generator, because we all have learned from Katrina to put generators, but that's not the real answer. They're going to break down, they're going to have issues, and at that point in time, I know that from Isaac, we couldn't get technicians to come work on them. So we need you to get that police department back on faster.
Well, they are on the list, I promise you.
I know they're on the list, but they just don't get on fast enough.
Well, part of it, sometimes, you know, even though we could have the highest priority, we could have the hospital as number one in Kenner. And if the situation the hand we've been dealt dictates that it's going to take 4 days to get there, get power to it, you know, sometimes they're not going to be first. It's just sometimes that hand we're dealt trying to get power to the police station, because they're fed out of University City, which is way up in as far north Kenner. Sometimes that determines how long we can get there. Look, we want them on. We want our first responders out there in good conditions.
Yeah, but that station from a crow's fly is what, maybe 600 yards?
Oh, no, it's
Maybe a little bit more, I mean, but
probably a mile or two.
You got Interstate, Sam's, and then the 31st Street station? Or is it further back is where they're at?
This is in the 2-lane.
In the 2-lane, okay. All right, well, just for the sake of our police officers who have to deal with that in case the generator broke.
Understand.
And my last question is, and this is coming from a lot of the constituents, and I'm sure these other gentlemen up here and lady will have the same question. How long is the surcharge from any one hurricane going to stay on our bills? Because I see the Katrina surcharge is still there, and then as new ones come along, they're there. What's the game plan for that?
Well, let's back up a little bit. The storm recovery has been, utilities have always gotten storm recovery. It's typically, you know, historically it's gone to base rates. So the customer typically never saw it. In, you know, years past, the customer never really noticed it. You know, his rate, their rates just kind of crept up a little. Well, after Katrina, there were we sold bond. We actually found a new method to recover costs. The problem with that is the commission made us put a line item on the bill, which is not a problem. You know, it saved the customers money in the long run the way we did it. Actually, other utilities have adopted this model and are using it now. But it put it on the bill as a line item. There's actually a credit and a charge, a credit and a debit, so to speak. And the difference is what you pay for. There's one for Katrina Rita, there's one for Gustav Ike, and actually one for Isaac's getting ready to start. Now, about 2 months ago, we worked with the commission because they were getting, each storm had 2 lines on a bill, so our bill was getting very cluttered. We actually asked them if we could combine them all into just a storm, we call a storm charge. So now you'll just see 2 lines and they're all combined. But to answer your question, the Katrina Rita rolls off it started in 2008. We started collecting, and it rolls off in 2018. Gustav Ike started in 2010, and it will roll off in 2022. And Isaac, it starts October, and I would imagine, I don't know exactly, but I would at least 10 years.
Okay, well, that was
yeah.
my
Yes.
question, really, is what's the timeline?
Yes, sir.
And if it's 10 years?
Katrina Rita is rolling off in 18.
Okay.
But the problem that they're all combined now, so that that line item's gonna be there now, but
We just don't
the
really.
pieces,
see
that's right, the pieces will come in and out as storm goes forward. And again, look, this is nothing new that's never, it's actually, we will recognize for that process, the commission, and other utilities are starting to use that method because it saves customers money in the long run. And they don't really go into base rates, even though it breaks it out and it kind of, I know customers don't like seeing it, but it does save them money in the long run.
All right, well, just keep that in mind. They're asking when they go off.
Oh, I
But now it'll be even harder to determine because we won't know which ones are dropping off.
Well, I'm sure we'll be telling you. When they roll off, we'll be telling you for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Impastato, you have the floor.
Can you send us the links to the information on the app and that Storm Ready site?
Absolutely.
So that we can, for those of us who have Facebook pages and whatnot,
Absolutely.
for the council in the city, that we can send that out.
We'd appreciate that.
Please send that. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Mr. Finn, when I called you, one of the reasons was, again, because I mentioned that I had read about the problem with the aging grids that we have, and that they're looking all over the country, and that possibly some of them are going to fail, and they're going to have blackouts, and they're going to have to be replaced. So I really have two very quick questions. Number one, what are we doing to make sure that if there are any grids that are rather antiquated, that we're addressing that issue, and how quickly are we addressing it?
Well, I mean, Councilman DeFrancis, that's an ongoing process with us. I mean, we're constantly, we just rebuilt, or we did a new unit at 9 Mile. It was several $100 million we put in there. We're looking at a new unit at Little Gypsy, which is the other side of the spillway. From a generation standpoint, we're always putting money up. Like, we're in a business of selling.
You don't have, though, a major plan to do that. That's really my question. Do you have a major plan that you've laid out for addressing those grids, or is it more, we're looking at them, and as we need to do them, we replace them?
Well, I mean, again, we're going through, we use our performance scores. We try to target what circuits are not performing well. We work on those, and, I mean, that's ongoing. Again, we're in the business to sell electricity, and if we can't get power to our customers, we can't do that.
And I understand that. And we had spoken about it during some of the storms. Some of the grids are, I'll be honest with you, I looked at the grids, I worked with you, and some of the grids seem a little bit unusual to me, that because some of them, there was a part of Chateau that was the very last to come on, and the reason was because it was not part of it was on a separate grid that came from a very, very far distance, actually, it was in Jefferson into Orleans almost, I think. So, and you mentioned to me that it was so costly to change those grids that that's not something you normally would be able to do. Am I not right?
I'm not really sure exactly what you're referring to, but, I mean, like those,
Trianon areas where I'm talking about, if you remember, we talked about that. That's okay. If you don't remember, certainly we can talk about it another time. And one last question. I mentioned to you after one of the storms, and look, I understand you all are replacing poles as quickly as possible, but just as an example, you and I had this conversation, that there were 3 poles, one after the other, for example, along the Duncan Canal that had been really devastated by termites. So the last question really is, when you're looking at the poles to see which ones need to be, replaced, how do you go about it? Do you pick a certain area and then you sporadically check in that area? Is it very systematic? Do you go from one area to the other? It's just a matter of what procedure do you use?
we try to work on a grid system. And again, keep in mind, I mean, I know you're concerned about the city of Kenner, and rightfully so. That's your elected officials. But, the network that serves this area is our East Jefferson network. So we have Kenner and Metairie and everything East Jefferson. So we try to work, we just call grids. We just have, we have maps that are laid out and they're squares, obviously, and we just try to work, we systematically try to work different substations. We try to work them out of the substations, but try to work them all over and, in pieces at a time. So,
So it's not one complete area that you do, then you go to the next, but rather sporadic approach to
we'll
each
try,
area.
if you, those numbers, remember, we try about 7,500 a year. So if we have 70,000 poles, we're trying to get once every 10 years, or, so we're trying to touch each pole. and give it an inspection. And, so that's kind of what we, I mean, we may not go to that poll for 9 years, and all of a sudden we show up and,
Right.
so.
Well, thank you very much for coming tonight. We appreciate the information, and hopefully we won't have a storm, so we won't have to go through the...
Well, I'm a little nervous right now, but we'll see.
Exactly. Our
We'll
people have
see.
been through enough, and I think we all pray that our storms will stay far away from this area. So, our mayor would like to make a comment.
Greg, I just had one quick question for you. Where do our rates fall, like in the rest of the country?
We're near the bottom.
Like fourth lowest or something like that?
They're very low, and I
Okay.
appreciate, I don't know if you knew that or not, or you would just.
No, I mean, I know our Public Service Commissioner, Eric Scrametta, has been down and talked to us about how they've, fought to maintain low rates, and I think he said that in this area, we have the fourth lowest rates in the country. I just wanted to verify that with y'all. I didn't know if that was, if it was fourth, or it shifted, or it's changed, because that was some time back when he told me.
I don't know if it's fourth, but I know it's really low, and you'll see, if you notice all the expansions that are coming to Louisiana within petrochemical industry, a lot of it's because of the natural gas and the low electricity prices. That's what drives that. And, we are a high user here in this part of the country because of the heat. If you've been outside today, you know why. But from a pricing standpoint, we have some of the lowest electricity in the country.
And I will tell you that having been here through various storms, the people that you have working out there to get the power restored, many of them from other parts of the country, they've been phenomenal in working with us. I know in District 4, they stayed much longer than they should have, late at night into the dark, and they did it because they wanted to make sure that power was restored to people as quickly as possible.
Yeah, those
So
guys,
again,
I tell you, I appreciate those comments, and those guys, that's very hard work they do, and a lot of them take a lot of pride in it. So it's very difficult work and some tough conditions.
thank you again for coming tonight, and we appreciate it, and thank you for the information. Okay, moving right along.
Yes, ma'am. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of August 7, 2014. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 1830/14, Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic Church to hold a public gathering for the purpose of a St. Rosalie procession on September 14, 2014, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 2008 Short Street, Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3B is application number 1831/14, Bonneville High School to hold a public gathering for the purpose of a pep rally on September 18, 2014, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at 2801 Bruin Drive in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council to present a report to the City Council.
I would like to recognize the Youth Advisory Council. Would anyone like to please come up to the mic and do a presentation to the council? Would you make sure you please introduce yourself and tell us where you live?
My name's Arjun Verma. I live at 4436 Rue St. Martin, Kenner.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Mayor Yenny, Councilman, and especially Mr. Al Morello. My name is Arjun Verma, as I said, and I'm president of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, a youth council restarted under the Yenny administration in an effort to get the city's younger voices heard. To begin, I just want to apologize for any lack of response to inquiries presented at previous city council meetings. At the meeting which I attended, I was unaware of any further inquiries on my behalf and thus was unable to respond to them. So in regard to timing, the MYAC, or Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, has scheduled meeting dates on the second Thursday of every month, so these inquiries have been on our agenda. We simply hadn't had the meeting yet, so to convene and discuss them. So I wish to remove any sort of idea that the MYAC was ignoring anyone's questions, for we as a council, despite our obvious limitations in age and experience, do take our role seriously. So I simply ask for a little more time next time. So further on to the accusations that there may be some form of indoctrination going on. So in answering Mr. Morello's inquiries, which I will do in a few moments, I hope to concurrently squash any idea that there may be any form of indoctrination going on. I support what Councilman Impastato had to say about we as a council being a free-thinking group of individuals. I'm sure that there are differing political ideals within the council, but we over time have learned to coalesce in an effort to be an efficient body. We recognize that without strength and unity, we would ultimately not accomplish anything, rendering this opportunity given to us by Mayor Yenny and his staff useless. So in response, we as a council looked at the 2030 plan in our meeting and came to similar decisions. We were not berated by our coordinators to support Mayor Yenny in any form. I support the 2030 plan, and therefore I support Mayor Yenny, for he is the one who's enacting the plan. Indoctrination would be the antithesis of this, or that my support of the 2030 plan would be based on the idea that I like Mayor Yenny. This idea is completely false. My support for the plan is founded in its documentation, not in its author. And as the president of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, I stand here today to speak on behalf of the group as a whole. And finally, I would just also like to ask that prior to coming to City Council with possible questions, comments, or concerns about the MYEC or its members, to contact me or to reach out to us through a city official. So now on to the specific questions that were posed to us at the last meeting. So the first question has to do with the Youth Council support of the 2030 plan. So in response, the Youth Council support for the 2030 plan is founded on multiple principles. First, the Yenny administration was able to secure the interest rates on bonds from 4.42% to a rate of approximately 3.92%. And it could have been 3.25%, but there was a lawsuit that happened, and I won't dive into that issue. So this drop in interest rates saves the city money and allowed more borrowing power. Further, because the new bonds, which will be issued for 20 years with those lower interest rates, taxpayers will be paying the same amount annually that they currently are, even though the debt is extended over another 15 years, which we understand. So the city's bond rating of A+ assures us that the city is capable of handling this extended debt as the rating is issued by financial experts. Incurring debt responsibly is common practice for people as they invest in things such as buying or refinancing a home. So in essence, what the Youth Council is saying is that we understand the 2030 plan is a risk, but it's a risk we're willing to take, and we're the generation who will have to deal with it in the future. So on to the second question about concerning if we believe the benefits of the 2030 plan outweigh the cost. So I would like to begin by saying that although we are just teenagers, and I'm sure many of you immediately assume we're just sophomore kids who don't know how the real world works, I must say that we do recognize that the plan concerns a large sum of money. However, we recognize that in order for the city to grow, debt is almost necessary. In fact, these projects would not even be possible without some form of responsible debt. For example, of the 10 fastest growing cities in the United States, according to Forbes, from Dallas, Texas at number 10 to Raleigh, North Carolina at number 1, each of these cities also has a top 10 debt per citizen statistic, with Dallas at number 3. And I understand these cities are much bigger than Kenner. However, if you look at the numbers proportionately from per capita to debt per citizen, Kenner is in line with the numbers. We have a lower amount of debt comparatively because of our smaller population. However, per citizen, we have a drastically smaller amount of debt even after the plan is implemented. So it's important to recognize that means per citizen. So even though we're a smaller city, obviously, we're still in line. So throughout the entire refinance, Kenner will remain in the low category of debt by a national standard. So we conclude that the benefits of the plan heavily outweigh the cost. There's a great deal of work needed to keep the youth of my generation in this city, and that is exactly what this administration is doing. So in order to keep the city on the map, it needs to adapt to the times and offer its citizens a more lively place to live, and that's exactly what the 2030 plan is doing. So we stand behind Mayor Yenny and his execution of the 2030 plan. So on to the third and final question about, this was concerning Councilman Impastato and Councilman Carroll's questions about what the MYEC's, what we liked about the 2030 plan. So prior to answering, just let it be known that these answers we came up with as a council before we ever looked at the 2030 plan. These were our own thoughts, and it just so happened that the 2030 plan covered many of our concerns. So first, we tried to offer the council a beautification project. In an effort to attract more people to the city of Kenner, the MYEC has determined that a widespread beautification project be implemented. Although certain forms of public beauty, such as sculptures and flowers, specifically in Lake Town, have been placed in certain areas, much of the city's public grounds still remain barren. And as a solution, the NYC recommended a citywide project. Additionally, enforcement of the city's no litter laws need to be better enforced, and greater incentives such as higher fines ought to be constructed in an effort to stop public dumping. Beautification can be accomplished in multiple ways. Much like the city of New Orleans has done on Canal Street, palm trees could be planted in various areas. And so on this specific issue, I would just like to point out that before we ever read the plan, this is just what we advocated for. And these are the exact things that are going on in the 2030 plan. You can just look at Williams Boulevard towards the north side of Kenner. And so we also advocated for Make Kenner Bright, or MKB for short, proposal, advocating for better lighting of public areas in Kenner. Statistical evidence from the Department of Justice proves that lighting acts as one of the most efficient forms of crime prevention. With better lit streets, Kenner could attain a lower crime rate and claim the role as the safest place in the area for families who wish to move here from the New Orleans area. Specifically, the city ought to implement such a plan in areas that are crime-ridden, or just worse off than other areas in the city. I recognize that Kenner already has a very low crime rate. So doing so would not only lower the already low crime rate, but it would also offer the people who live in those areas more peace of mind and protection. And I also offer for you to recognize that this is exactly what's happening on Williams Boulevard, where the white lights are replacing the older orange ones, or yellow, however you want to call it. So we also advocated for bike lanes, which are actually being advocated for in the 2030 plan, such as can be seen on South Carrollton and Uptown, and a better advertised recycling program, along with better recreational amenities, such as a skate park or free play in gyms around the city, which I discussed with Councilman Impastato. So this would give kids safe and monitored activities all year round, rather than forcing them to wait for these structured facilities offered by the recreational departments, which are good, but they are limited. And we have a lot of off time. Like, obviously, we don't have jobs. So in conclusion, I just want to thank the council for its time, and the mayor specifically for the opportunity he has given us.
Councilman Impastato, you have the floor.
I can tell you I had the utmost confidence that the response we would get from the council would be well-researched, well-prepared, and well-presented, and make no mistake about it, you achieved all three of those. I think we're all better for you having been here tonight, and you certainly give confidence to me and the people in this community of where this city's headed. So thank you very much for your time. And even though you don't have jobs, you're back in school. And so for you guys to have to go through the research you did to prepare and make that presentation, I'm very grateful for. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Conley, you have the floor.
Yeah, first off, I want to thank you for coming tonight. You certainly don't owe us any apology for your timing. Your speech was impeccable, well presented, and well researched, and that's all we ask. So I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I appreciate your response, and again, well done. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and Mr. Barnard. Thank you and your fellow colleagues for coming in today, and we appreciate your response. I don't remember my exact question at the meeting, other than to ask for a copy of the recommendations of what you guys thought. And I don't know if I knew that it was before you read the plan or not, but now that you had an opportunity to read the plan, and not saying you're an expert on it, but any information that you will have, me and I'm sure the rest of my colleagues would like to get emailed if you guys have minutes from your meetings, so we'll be able to ask questions more intelligently when you have questions. So from that standpoint, I would like to get the copies of your minutes to my office when you guys have your meetings and any communications that you think is valid. And like I said, I think you did a good job responding back, but this is part of the process, as it relates to what's good or what's bad. This is the responsibility that you took. It's part of the responsibility. You are going to talk to individuals, to people who are going to disagree with you. It is not your you don't have to validate everything that you say. Say what you have to say. Have a reason for saying it, and suck that in, and even be able to take something from that, because obviously in city government, as we all know, we don't always agree on things. I don't always agree with people in my own home, but I think this is a process that will make you a better, not only person, but as you choose to go farther in your career, be it politically or be it professionally, it will make you a better person, because even in industry, you're going to have to meet and talk to people who will disagree with you, who will say things to you that you don't like, who will say things to you that you disagree with. So take this opportunity to learn when people come and say things that you may not seem that it may have been out of context, but take that and learn from that. And I think it will make you and your group a better group. So thanks again for coming. I look forward to other exchanges, you guys coming back and being able to defend and show that you're really up on what you have to do and you take this seriously. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Would it be possible for me to just respond to?
Absolutely, please.
So we didn't really, as a council, we didn't take anything that Mr. Morello or anyone else said personally. We were just kind of here to respond as a council. So I think we all, I don't know, I'm a debater, and so I'm fine with confrontation, but I just wanted to point out that this wasn't personal like vindication. This was just answering remarks or questions.
Can you open it up for him? I've already got, because, go ahead.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I wasn't implying that you were debating, but you did call Mr. Morello's name out, as opposed to just stating your comments. And when you call a person's name out, it implies that you are talking to him directly. So not mentioning his name, just presenting what you had to say, is in my opinion, the proper response from the group to be able to say, this is where we are, this is how we feel, there are some questions. But when you call someone's name out, it kind of personalizes it. And that's the only thing I was implying from it. And keep up the good job being a debater.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you, Madam President.
I need to make a comment at this time. Forgive me, but I really need to interject. First of all, this was not an attack on Mr. Morello. If someone asks me a question or indicates maybe that I hadn't researched an item or that hadn't formed a well-thought-out opinion about a certain thing, I will answer that particular person. That is not an insult. If anything, that was done properly. And we should not look at it the way, unfortunately, Councilman Carroll, I have to disagree with you. I am very impressed, and I'm going to tell you the research you did. I'm impressed with the intelligent way you presented it. You did not present it with any kind of rancor. You did it merely in a factual, well-thought-out way. As you said, you do have debate experience. And it doesn't mean, and when you debate, it doesn't mean you have to be negative. It doesn't mean you attack. It's simply a way of presenting your points and in this case, answering questions that were brought out at a previous meeting. And you answered them well. I repeat, you didn't do it with rancor. And I don't find it an insult. If I were Mr. Morello, I would be delighted that someone cared enough to go research the question that I asked and came back to answer it for me. And I just want, and Mr. Morello, I mentioned it to you. If I were in your shoes, I would be flattered that someone cared enough to do it in such a professional way and answer any problem, any question I might have had. So I compliment you, young man, for the way you and your group handled this. And I wanted to make sure I put it on the record before we proceeded any further. And that's not a negative towards you, Councilman. Wait, Councilman Carroll, 1 second. I have the floor now. That is not a negative towards you. It's simply a different opinion based on what was said. And I thought it was imperative that it be answered and that another point of view be expressed at that time. I gave you extra time to speak as well, which we normally don't do, as you well know. So I just wanted to present that side because we have to look at both sides. And I did not want to make it look like perhaps that this was something other than what it was. I was impressed with the way it was handled. I'm proud of the way it was handled, and I'm delighted that we have them here in the city of Kenner. Councilman Klein, you have not had a chance to speak. We try normally to limit it one time each, so you have not had a chance to speak, so you have the floor.
I'm good? Okay. I want to thank you and the entire Youth Advisory Council for your preparation and your presentation. I think your thoughts are encouraging and enlightening to the council. And as you know, the youth would be the future of Kenner. So we look forward to working with you and your entire group. Thank you very much.
Everyone has had a chance. Mr. Segura, did you have a chance to speak on this? I apologize, I got sidetracked. Councilman Segura, you're next, please.
Okay. My comment, and I know Councilwoman DeFrancis probably got a lot of it out, but I just want to let you know that I appreciate, again, as everyone has said, your research. And this all came about from a question from Mr. Morell. So I'm sure mentioning his name was just to acknowledge that the question came from him, and that was just seemed proper to acknowledge that that's who raised the question, just as if anybody would have, you would have acknowledged their name. So I don't take it that you were having any adversity toward him, which I don't think he would either. He raised the question. So again, thank you for your presentation to us.
Councilman Carroll, I know you have your name next, but really, we do try to limit it to once. And I did give you extra time as well. If you don't mind, unless you really find it absolutely necessary, I would prefer that we keep to the council rules. If we do that, we're going to continue all the time. Why not make your comment at the end? Good, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for cooperating. I really appreciate it, Councilman Carroll. Councilman Reyno. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you all for all of your hard work. Thanks for coming and explaining everything to us. And, you know, I'm really excited. You know, the future of our city and our country, thanks to youth like you, we're going to be in good hands. Everything's going to be great. So thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Item 5 is...
I had my light.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, you did not have a chance to speak, so you do have the mic.
I just had one question, Mr. President. What high school do you attend?
Jesuit High School.
Thank you.
I didn't hear it. Council Clerk?
Item 5 is acceptance and rejection of bids requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. Item 5A is a resolution accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Gray Bar Electric Company Incorporated in the amount of $4,105 to furnish one Washington Grand cast iron streetlight base for Rivertown in accordance with telephone bid number T14-2203 for the Department of Public Works. Item 5B is a resolution accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Han Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $3,248 to furnish and install 6 sets of volleyball floor sleeves with chrome plate covers at the Pontchartrain Center in accordance with telephone bid number T14-2206 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 6 is change orders requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 7 is acceptance of committee findings for final passage. We have none. Item 8 is re-subdivision ordinances for final passage. Item 8A is summary ordinance number 11,751, an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of Lot A, Oakland Plantation Subdivision, former portions of Blair Avenue and Geneva Street right-of-ways, and Lot 1A, Square 10, Hanson Place Subdivision, into Lot 1A1, Hanson Place Subdivision in Kenner, Louisiana.
Motion by Councilmember Conley, seconded by Councilmember DeFrancis. On the consent agenda, council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, your motion passes 7-0.
We're now on the public appearance agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 11,749, an ordinance amending ordinance 9492 and further approving a planned unit development to expand the automotive services and use offered by Gillette Tire and Automotive LLC, which is located on Lot 15A, Square 59, Old Kenner Subdivision in Kenner, Louisiana.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Impostata to open public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
We're now in a public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council may speak after the presentation, however, by planning director. So we're going to let Mr. Hebert go first, please.
Thank you, Madam President. The property is located at 705 Williams Boulevard in Council District 1. The property includes a 9,600 square foot multi-use commercial building containing 2 tenants, Gillette Tire and Automotive, and Landry Construction. The property is currently governed by Special Ordinance 2898, originally adopted in 1981, approving a planned unit development for Gillette Tire and Automotive use. Gillette Tire and Automotive has been in operation since 1981 and has been providing several automotive services in addition to wholesale and tire retail services. The additional services were not, that they're requesting at this point in time, were not provided on the original ordinance. Gillette is retroactively asking for approval for those additional services. They would include oil changes, brake repair, tune-ups, wiper repairs, AC and heating repairs, and several others. We consider these to be minor automotive services. There will be no major services such as body and collision, transmission, and engine repair. Based on that, the Planning Department and the Planning Commission recommend approval. But let me just also say, though, that the vehicular parking area waiting for services for those vehicles is actually behind the building. There is a gate. It's enclosed with a solid wooden fence, so it's absolutely not visible from Williams Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Is there anyone from the audience who wishes to address the council on this issue? Seeing no one, moved by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Impostata to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
One more.
There are 2 votes pending. Please check your voting machines. Now 1. Do it again.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Impostata to approve. Councilman Carroll, did you wish to address the? Okay, good. All right, there you go. You have the mic, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to say that, thank the owner. I think the new owner, Mr. Wilbert Landry, has had an affiliation with this business for over 20 years. He is now the main proprietor. Is he here? Is Mr. Landry here? Would you please come up, sir? And to say that the business has been in South Kenner for a long time under a different name, Bridgedale, or even something before that. They have always been respectable to the community, have always offered services for the community. So we look forward to a long-lasting relationship, and I'd like Mr. Landry to introduce himself, please.
Good evening. My name is Will Landry. I own the building at 705 Williams. I also live at 4428 Rue St. Peter in Kenner. And I've been a resident of Kenner for 25 years and have been working in Kenner for 25 years.
Well, sir, we congratulate you, and we hope you have every success. And we hope your business continues to grow and grow in the city of Kenner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Seeing no one, council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 9B is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 11,750, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3239 adopted June 17, 1982, as amended by ordinance 5486 adopted on August 22, 1985, and further approving a planned unit development for a Goodyear Tire and Service Facility located on parcel 6D in Canes-Brule subdivision, Kenner, Louisiana.
Motion by Councilmember Klein, seconded by Councilmember DeFrancis to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
We are now in a public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council may come to the mic after the presentation, again by our planning director, Mr. Hebert.
Thank you, Madam President. Parcel 6D is an undeveloped out parcel located in the southeast corner of the Esplanade Mall. The parcel fronts Ring Road and 32nd Street and is bounded by Canal Number 12 to the south and the Duncan Canal to the east. Parcel 6D is governed by special ordinances 3239 and 5486, along with the Esplanade Mall's Declaration of Covenants, which regulates development of the mall's out parcels. The proposal includes a new construction of a 6,613 square foot Goodyear Tire and Service Facility. With regards to off-street parking, a minimum of 41 parking spaces are required. The site plan shows a total of 32 spaces being proposed, with, that leaves a deficiency of 9 parking spaces. Now, to offset this deficiency, additional off-street parking spaces are available in the Esplanade Mall's shared parking lot, which is located due northwest of Ring Road. The location of the mall's parking lot is generally unused during the non-holiday season, so spillover wouldn't be an issue. In addition, the loading zone for the site is located in front of the garage bay doors outside of the parking lot drive lane. With regards to landscaping, the proposed landscape plan meets the minimum landscape requirements of the city's landscape ordinance. Also, Goodyear's building meets the minimum building setbacks of the C2 General Commercial District, as well as the maximum height that was established by the Declaration of Covenants. Also, a 16-foot by 8-foot dumpster enclosure will be provided along the west side of the development site, designed to match the materials and color of the main building. With regards to signage, 2 47-square-foot attached building signs are proposed, one located above the garage bay doors along the front elevation and one located on the main entrance side elevation. Both signs do comply with the signs regulations of the Declaration of Covenants. In addition to that, 1 6-foot-high Goodyear monument sign is also proposed, located along the northeast corner of the site. The sign face will consist of 35 square feet and will be set back 20 feet from the street curb. The proposed monument sign meets the minimum sign regulations of the Declaration of Covenants as well. There are several servitudes located along Canal Number 12 and the Duncan Canal. No part of the proposed development will encroach into the servitudes. With regards to utilities, Veolia Water has indicated that the proposed development site needs to tie into the city's sewer system. A private sewer lift station and force main will have to be installed in order to reach the nearest city manhole. Veolia Water will coordinate with Goodyear on this matter. There's no outstanding issues at this time. Therefore, the Planning Commission and Planning Department both recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Is there anyone from the audience wishing to address the council? Seeing no one, moved by Councilmember Klein, seconded by Councilmember DeFrancis to close public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilmember Klein, seconded by Councilmember DeFrancis to approve. Councilman Klein, do you wish, you need to push your button? Thank you.
This site where the new Goodyear store will be going is an undeveloped site. It's been undeveloped for a number of years. The old Goodyear store is behind Dillard's. There's not much visibility back there. So this will be an improvement. It'll be a brand-new building for the city of Kenner. So I support it, and hopefully the other council members will as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. Seeing no other council member wishing to speak, council members, would you please vote?
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 11,752. In order approving a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Jefferson Convention and Visitors Bureau for services related to increasing tourism in the city of Kenner, and in consideration of these services, to provide payment in the form of the monthly net proceeds of the hotel occupancy tax in the city of Kenner, as authorized by LSARS 47:338.203, after deduction of reasonable expenses and related matters.
Motion by Councilmember Conley, seconded by Councilwoman DeFrancis to, to open the public hearing. Council members, I'm sorry, I am right. I'm sorry, my eyes went crazy. I apologize for that. To open public hearing, council members, please vote. That's what you wrote.
Is no public hearing, it's just on approval. Is there anybody want to discuss?
That's what you wrote.
It's okay, it's not a public hearing, it's all right.
No, it's not a public
It's
hearing.
just
That's
for
why I got
approval.
confused.
Convention and Visitors Bureau has done a lot for the city. I know when we first all came into office, they met with us, gave us a very well thought out, well planned book of projects and services they offer. I think what struck most of us was the fact that they aim to retain existing businesses in addition to going out and seeking new businesses. So I would ask that we support this.
I am. Council Reno, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Quigley, we had discussions about this, and just to clarify for the public, we have monies that are left for advertising and some other funds. Can you just clarify all that, just so that the public knows what?
Yes, in the original contract, we were able to put $50,000 in a marketing fund, $50,000 in an economic impact study, and another $50,000 for an event fund. And so at this point, we haven't expended all of those funds. So with the new contract, we're just going to have the same job description of the things that they have to do for the marketing and the event fund, and spend the remainder of or the balance of that money. So this is not new money being put into it. It was just the money was not spent in the first contract. So we're just keeping in this particular contract the remaining balance.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I hope that the rest of the council will also support this. This is great for the city of Kenner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Reno. My apologies to the public. That was an error I had in my agenda, and so I apologize to you all for the error. But I just want to say that I agree wholeheartedly. They have done a phenomenal job for us in bringing business and business retention. The Jefferson Convention and Visitors Bureau has done a really fabulous job for the city of Kenner. We want them to continue on the job, and we look forward to working with them. See no one else? Council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 12B is summary ordinance number 11,753, an ordinance amending the Kenner Code of Ordinances, Article 2, Section 15-23, pertaining to installation of specific traffic control signs at the Kenner Discovery Elementary School.
Moved by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Conley. Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just want to point out that this legislation, this traffic control has been in place since the school opened or shortly thereafter, but we're just cleaning up some of the signage around it to make it more informative as to what direction you can turn and during what hours. So it's just cleaning some of that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segura. Seeing no one else, would council members please vote?
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution temporarily suspending Council Rule Number 11 of the Rules of Organization, Business, Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner and rescheduling the Kenner City Council agenda deadline to August 29, 2014 at noon for the council meeting of September 4, 2014.
Moved by Councilman Reno, seconded by Councilwoman DeFrancis. Seeing no one wishing to speak, council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 13B was taken earlier in the meeting. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 11,754, an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Gill's Carpet Sales Incorporated in the amount of $9,290 to furnish and install quarry tile at Butch Dewey Gymnasium in accordance with letter bid number 14-1518 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Moved by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Carroll. Seeing no one wishing to speak, council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 11,755, an ordinance approving the purchase of 4 2015 Ford Expedition vehicles from Crescent Ford utilizing Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office contract number 14A0901 at a total cost of $106,957 for the Kenner Fire Department.
Motion by Councilman Impostata, seconded by Councilman Klein. Everyone please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 11,756. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Volute Incorporated in the amount of $4,354,438 for rehabilitation of the affluent pump station in accordance with seal bid number 14-6223 for the Department of Public Works.
Moved by Councilman Klein, seconded by Councilman Carroll. Seeing no one wishing to speak, council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 11,757. An ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Dynamic Constructors LLC in the amount of $714,000 regarding Hurricane Isaac damage renovations to the Pontchartrain Center and Civic Center.
Moved by Councilmember Reyno, seconded by Councilwoman DeFrancis. Councilman Reyno, do you? Okay. Councilmember Reyno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Quigley, I know we discussed this too. This is for the interior repairs on the Pontchartrain Center. We did the roof last council meeting.
Yes, that is correct. And as we said last meeting, we decided to split it up because the roof, we wanted to make sure that we had a roofing contractor bid on the specific roof project, and we were successful in awarding the roof contract to a roofer. This is going to go to a general contractor, and again, I want to reiterate that we have a PW from FEMA, and this is just replacing or renovating or repairing the damages from Hurricane Isaac. And in particular note is the two wooden basketball courts that were essentially totally damaged. This will replace the two wooden basketball courts, and also some of the interior areas like flooring and panels and stuff, some of the inside roofing material that was damaged during Isaac. So, we've been working diligently with FEMA to get this approved. And again, so we split it up, but this is the interior repairs. The good news is that the roof will be repaired before this is done so that there won't be any additional damage. So.
And both of these projects combined under what we had anticipated them to be.
Yes, both of the bids came in under budget, and we're well within budget.
Okay. This is much needed, and ask for all of the council support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Reyno. Seeing no other comments from the council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15E is a resolution approving final change order to the contract with Fleming Construction Company, LLC, dated September 10, 2013, regarding the Veterans and Indiana Lift Station and Force Main Improvements Project, reducing the contract amount by $59,466.20 and accepting the project as complete for the Department of Public Works.
Moved by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilmember Impastato. Seeing no one wishing to speak, council members, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15F is a resolution approving First NBC Bank as fiscal agent of the City of Kenner and authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with First NBC Bank.
Moved by Councilmember Conley, seconded by Councilwoman DeFrancis. And I simply want to make a comment that the First NBC Bank, as one of the reasons we're picking it as our fiscal agent, they have offered a phenomenal contract to the City of Kenner. It will save our citizens quite a bit of money, and we can use it for the many issues that need to be addressed in our city. So we're very proud to be able to accept that. Thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak from the administration?
I just wanted to mention, we have some representatives from First NBC. If y'all have any questions for them, or if y'all would like to have them introduce
Would you please come to the mic, sir?
And if I could add while they're coming up, Mr. McConnell's office did a thorough proposal on RFP on all of the submittals to get the best qualified bank to come and be our carrier. And the beauty is, I think we have about a $25,000 a year cost savings with First NBC. They've offered us a great deal. They're a great bank. I know that they have a lot of representatives that live in the city of Kenner, and I'm very proud of that, and we look forward to doing business with them.
And they have a branch in District 4.
Yes, they do. That they do.
Would you please introduce yourselves to the audience, the administration, the council, please?
Sure, I'm David Anderson. I live at 579 Audubon Street in New Orleans. But I'm the vice chairman of the board, and we're very, very thankful to have City of Kenner as a new client of First NBC. It means a lot to us. We started the bank in May of 2006, and we're now a $3.5 billion bank. We're publicly traded, so we have all the rules and regulations of the SEC, FDIC, to make sure that we handle your affairs in a very prudent, judicial manner. So we're very excited. Thank you for the opportunity. And our president and CEO, also a Jesuit graduate, lives right over here on the 16th hole. So we're all very excited. So if you ever have any problems, you just reach out.
You knock
You
on
get
his door?
immediate response, immediate response. And Fred Beebe here is one of our executive vice presidents of the bank and resides out here in Kenner as well and runs the whole west part of Jefferson Parish for First NBC. Fred?
Again, thank you. The council was wonderful, especially Mariani, everything. I should point out everybody that was involved in this. It really wasn't a bid process. This was more about trying to give something back to the community we serve. So we just wanted to, Mayor asked us to look into it, and I got to tell you, it was easy. Appreciate it.
And certainly your offers does give back to the community. We thank you for it. We have a council member who would like to address you. Council Member Impostata, you have the floor.
One question, Mr. Anderson. Where did Mr. Ryan send his sons to high school?
Oh.
As a Cavalier, I'm at least thankful he sent them to Rummel.
Still touchy, huh?
Thank you so much again, and we appreciate all you're doing for the city of Kenner by giving us something, again, that we can give back to the people
We
by the
expect to do a
savings
lot
that
more.
you are offering to the city.
Thank you all very much.
And one real quick thing before I leave. That charter school at Mariani and everyone here, I'd like to ask that y'all get with me, and let's see what we can do to kind of help y'all out.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we will be contacting you.
Okay, that'll be great. Duke, thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments, council members, would you please vote?
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance repealing and rescinding ordinance number 9325 and providing for related matters. Item 16B is an ordinance approving repairs to 2007 Vector Unit 6052 by All Trans Service Incorporated, an authorized dealer in the amount of $6,804.58 for the Department of Sewerage. Item 16C is an ordinance ratifying the emergency repair of the air conditioning system at the Old Theater in the amount of $5,059.63 by Building Control Systems, LLC, for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16D is an ordinance approving an agreement with Design Engineering Incorporated for resident inspection services in connection with the rehabilitation of the affluent pump station project in the amount not to exceed $125,000 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16E is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 2 MSA Product Evolution 6000 thermal imaging cameras from Casco Industries Incorporated in the amount of $13,080, utilizing City of New Orleans Material and Supply Agreement K13-1234 with Casco Industries Incorporated for the Kenner Fire Department. Item 16F is an ordinance ratifying the emergency purchase of a ShoreTel VoIP telephone system in the amount of $13,092.64 for the Black Box Network Services Incorporated Government Solutions utilizing State of Louisiana contract number 409462 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16G is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from B&B Products, LLC for the supply of masonry supplies on an as-needed basis in accordance with sealed bid number 14-6234 in an amount not to exceed $50,000 per year for the Department of Parks and Public Works. An ordinance accepting, item 16H is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from BLD Services, LLC in an amount of $484,267 for the Roan Lift Station Replacement Project in accordance with seal bid number 14-6231 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16I is an ordinance approving Amendment Number 1 to the engineering agreement with Hartman Engineering Incorporated regarding Kenner Hansen City Sewer Lift Station improvements for LS 4102 Airline Drive, Minden, and LS 4103 Firehouse Road, which increases the maximum agreement amount to $214,927 in order to accommodate an expansion of the scope of work to include additional design-related services. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Is there anyone who would wish to speak? Councilman Conley, you have the floor.
I would just like to give a report on the Charter Review Committee. We have gotten all our names in from all the council members and the mayor and the chief of police. And we expect to have the first meeting probably in the second week of September. So we'll be working to put that together. I want to thank everybody for responding swiftly and, be excited to get that off the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some great people, by the way. I have to compliment everyone's, choice. I think we have some great people on that committee. I think they're going to work hard, and I think they will really make a difference. So I want to thank all of you for your input.
I could name District 1 is going to be Mr. James
I haven't
Evans.
told my person yet.
District 2 is going to be Will Vanderbrook. District 3 is going to be Tony Legee. District 4 is going to be Jerry Volk. District 5 is Brian Brennan. I picked Mike Powers, and he accepted. The chief of police picked Debbie Villio, and the mayor has Mr. Grunts on board. Maria, I'm going to let you say yours.
Well, I'm waiting to hear back because he wasn't able to get back to me yet, but I have a great person in mind, so, and I'm sure he's going to accept. I just didn't hear back yet today. So I wouldn't feel comfortable in announcing it till I get the okay.
And I'd like to thank everybody for acting swiftly, and of course for the people that have graciously accepted the request to be on the committee. I want to thank them also.
Thank you, Councilman Conley. Ms. Newton, would you like to address the audience and the council?
Yes, please. I just wanted to make an announcement via the Community Development Department. We have some home funds that we're looking to, recharge the first-time home buyers program, and I wanted to make an announcement that next Wednesday, August 27th, 6 p.m. at Heritage Hall in Rivertown, which is right at the corner of Williams and the river, there'll be a very important meeting for first-time home buyers interested in our homeowner assistance program. For more information, you can contact Community Development at 468-7588. Thank you.
And we do, if you look on the Kenner website, this is an example of what you'll find on the Kenner website, so please do look. It's a great program, and there's a lot of information there for you all. Also, we had our groundbreaking for the Kenner Food Bank, and I'd just like to thank everyone for being there, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful asset for the community, and we're so grateful that we're finally moving forward with it. And we want to thank Ms. Arlita Terrell and so many other people that I can't mention, but you're going to hear about all of them when we finally start the food bank. And one more announcement. Mr. Segura is going to tell you about it, but it has to do with getting doused with water for a good cause. So, Mr. Segura, Council Member Segura, I should say, excuse me, I give you the floor. You haven't pushed your button. There, but now I can do it. Okay, come on. It's not working. Try again, one more time. All right, there you go.
Okay, thank you. Yes, like to just make a somewhat of an announcement that last week our mayor participated in the ALS Ice Challenge, and after his little whimper at the end of it, he challenged this whole council to participate also. So it's our desire to accept his challenge as a whole. Every member of the council, along with our police chief, have agreed to accept it. and hopefully we'll speak a lot louder when we get that cold water on us. But the other thing is that we are going to make this somewhat of an event. We're still putting together the exact date as soon as we get all of our schedules matched up. But we want this to be, as I said, somewhat of an event. So we're going to put some notice out when we're going to do this so we can gather a crowd. And certainly I feel very comfortable that we'll be able to dwarf the $336 that the mayor collected. And we should be able to do a whole lot better than that. So that we will also put out that if anybody in the public has a particular council person that they would like to pour the ice on, we will be happy to take your bid so that you can have that privilege. And then also the public that will hopefully come and enjoy this site will be so kind as to contribute on to this cause also. We will have more information just as soon as we get our dates squared away and get it out there. So we hope to see as many people from the city to come and watch us get the dunk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segura. Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Hoping that this means that Councilman Impastato and Councilman Reno cheated. He wore a hat, but I'm not going to roll that out there. I hope they will take it again, and you know, because Mr. Impastato demonstrated on how not to do the Ice Bucket Challenge. But what I would like to recommend is that Mr. Impastato's kids have the privilege of holding the ice bucket over y'all, because I think that would probably be more of a challenge for you. And to quote Mr. Conley, when I challenged the entire city council, especially Councilwoman DeFrances,
Oh, yes.
there are no shower caps allowed.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to tell you, every single council member has agreed to participate, as well as our police chief. And you can see the enthusiasm on his face. You can see the enthusiasm on his face.
Now, y'all need to include Chief Caraway, because
I am trying to, he agreed to do it.
Good.
But he was going to do it by himself. I'm going to try to convince him to be part of this group and do it with the
I
rest of
think
us.
you should. Just tell him no white T-shirts.
Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Everybody was finished?
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. Someone pressed it a little late. I apologize for that. Councilmember Impastato, better late than, right?
It wasn't late. That's all right. Technically, the water did not hit me. So I felt like I have an obligation. I did not complete the challenge. I failed at the challenge, and so I don't think it counts. So.
Well, it'll count this time, I promise.
Right.
Councilman Reno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I do have a hard hat for Councilman Impastato. But I would like to challenge the councilman that should he win America's Funniest Videos, that he donate that money to... Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Reno. Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Item 18 is new business. This item was taken earlier.
We have none.
Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position.
We have none.
Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
And we have two people who would like to address the council, and the first is Mr. Al Morello. Welcome, Mr. Morello.
Thank you, ma'am. Al Morello, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 42 years. First of all, I want to say this to Councilman Carroll. You were precise, precisely to the point in your comments. All you were trying to convey to the young man was that everyone agrees to disagree. You nowhere in your talking points did you think he offended me at all. As a matter of fact, before the young man left, he approached me and I assured him there was no offense taken. Now, with that being said, I want to respond to some comments that was made in here at the last meeting, and I want to direct these comments to the mayor. First of all, Mayor, you accuse me of being belligerent to you, to your administration, and this council since April. To me, it's exercising my First Amendment right of freedom of speech, and I've been doing it down here for 40 years before you were even born. Secondly, you talked about my demands. When I make a demand, Mayor, I use the word demand. When I make a request, I use the word request. But I find it very disturbing that citizens in this community have to file lawsuits to obtain public records, which are our records, okay? And whenever something like this, whenever they have to file a lawsuit to obtain what's theirs, to me, it shows a total lack of transparency on the part of this administration and this council, okay? Now, the personal attack by the mayor on me as it relates to municipal bonds. Whenever money is made available, whether it's through the sale of bonds that's paid back with sales taxes or whatever, any money that has to be paid back is debt. This city is strapped with $37 million in new debt for a plan or a program, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, it's going to accomplish absolutely nothing. It's not going to achieve its goal, and I'm going to tell you why I think like that. First of all, our people and our businesses are leaving the city of Kenner every day. Second, last week, Motivo Realtors had an article in the Times-Picayune. They did a survey of 39 cities in the state of Louisiana on which cities were the safest to live in. Our city, Kenner, came in at 38th, man. One notch above 39, with New Orleans being ranked last. That's where the city of Kenner came in. So, now, evidently, when the young man gave the presentation, none of this was said, but it was in the paper.
Mr. Morrell, 30 seconds.
Okay, that's okay.
No, I want to give you a chance.
That's okay, Maria. I'm going to be done in time. It was in the paper for everybody to see. Anybody got any comments, any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morello. Ms. Fran Campbell, would you like to address the council and the audience?
I'm Fran Campbell. I live at number 5 Sago in Kenner, and I'm representing the East Jefferson Levy District. We're trying to build a facility in District 1, and we'd like to have a public meeting in response to Councilman Carroll's request to have a informational public meeting with the people of his community. And I'd like to have that meeting before our first, before we have to submit our PUD to the Planning Department, and we're targeting that for September the 10th. So in looking at the calendar with all the, Labor Day holiday and all the meetings of the council and whatnot, it seems like September the 3rd on Wednesday would work well, but I'd like to set that as a tentative date and perhaps coordinate that with District 1 and Councilman Carroll. And we'd like to suggest maybe a time of 6 or 6:30, because I'm told that that's a good time for most people to show up. So we can finalize those details with Councilman Carroll, but we'd like to suggest that we have that public meeting, and if we can get the names and addresses of his constituents, we'd like to do a mailer and advertise it, in the Times-Picayune, and get some coverage in the Times-Picayune, and perhaps also on the Kenner television station.
Ms. Campbell, is there anything else you'd like to say before I allow them to?
No, I'm just very excited about us relocating in Kenner, and can't wait till that, of course, I can't wait till that facility is built. It's going to be a safe house and consolidated facility for our operations on a daily basis, as well as a safe house.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And Ms. Campbell, thank you for coming today. I appreciate you responding to my request for the couple of meetings. And like you said, tentatively it's on the 3rd. I just want to make sure that it is facilitated enough to have it on that date. So I'm going to look at the calendar and just to make sure that is a good date, but you and I will be talking to be able to schedule it. The time is a perfect time. 6 o'clock, I think, will work, and we'll work out the logistics of it for that one and have one later down the road once things start to move
Right.
down. But thanks again, and we look forward to
Okay,
the East Jefferson facility coming into historic District 1.
thank you.
Thank you. And just want, Ms. Campbell, thank you. My next comment is related to the comments that I have, and I wish Mr. Burma was here just to be able, so he can see that this is what this is about. And I appreciate Mr. Morella. I was not trying to defend Mr. Morella. Nothing that I said I would not have said to my son, nor would I have mind someone to say to my son. I was only, as opposed to what Council President said, I was not trying to berate the young man. I was giving him my perspective just to be able to take this as a learning point. That's what I was doing. Nothing that I said, and I'm sure he didn't take it like that. And that was my opinion, my perspective. Even if someone disagreed with it, that was my position on it, and that to let him know perception is reality, and you have to be aware of that. That was merely what all I was saying, and I would want someone to say that to my son, who is also a senior like him. He doesn't attend Jesuit, he attends St. Augustine High School, but I'm just as proud as him to attend in that school. So if anyone sees my son and he says are doing something that is out of the line, please feel free to give your adult perspective of it, and we both would appreciate that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Mr. Gruntz, I believe you would like to address the council and the audience?
Yes. In response to the remarks about the public records request, you had to file suit. There's only one suit that I'm aware of, is the one that was filed under the former council, and those members are quite aware of what the circumstances were involved in that case. The city attorney's office responds to all public records requests, and if it is a true public record, we do disclose it to the public. In that case, that the suit was filed, a request was made for the disclosure of a settlement for a federal lawsuit which contained a confidentiality clause. The judge in the lawsuit said that the city attorney's office acted appropriately in not releasing it immediately. We took steps to get the proper authority to release it, and it was released.
Thank you, Mr. Gruntz. I will just say that I know that we were told that as soon as the permission was given, that it would be done, and there was a permission that needed to be put in place before you could do it, and I know that came out of our meeting with the rest of the council that had the previous council.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Yanni, did you wish to address?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing the misconstrued information that gets put to this body by some members of the public. Let's see. Motivo.com, the 10 safest cities in Louisiana. Number 1 is an unincorporated city in Louisiana, Metairie. Number 2 is Kenner. Right here. Number 2, Kenner, second safest city in Louisiana. So I don't know where Mr. Morella gets his facts from. During the election, he told me he didn't have a cell phone or a computer, so somebody must be giving him inaccurate information. And as far as businesses leaving the city of Kenner, well, I know Councilwoman DeFrances and I probably attended 4 in one day in District 5. This council has just attended at 2, one in each, one in South Kenner, one in North Kenner, and we've gone to many ribbon cuttings throughout this city over the past 4 years. So businesses are coming to Kenner. Goodyear's even relocating to a better location in Mr. Klein's district to do an outstanding job of attracting more people to their store. So I don't know where businesses running out of Kenner all day long, because Kenner is a place where people want to do business. And this, with the help of this council, this administration, and being one of the safest cities under Chief Glazer's guidance, we're gonna attract more businesses with the 2030 plan. And you know, it's disheartening that accusations like that get made and things like that come across, because this is one of the safest cities to live. When I campaigned, I found that out from just door knocking to all the residents. I made sure I asked them what their concerns were. One of the biggest concerns were the bike patrols. Chief Glazer and Chief Caraway have pushed to have those bike patrols out in the communities. So there's very few cities in the metropolitan area and Jefferson Parish, or probably in this region, that offer bike patrols in the neighborhoods that can hear the crime during the day. So I think we live in a very safe city, and it's a shame. You know, Ben Franklin said it best. Any fool can criticize, condemn, and most fools do. Thank you.
Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I move to adjourn the council meeting, and Councilmember Conley seconds that motion. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.